to, I think funnels can be rather controversial nowadays, but it's really, really fundamental for us. And you will hear us say this a lot. I don't want to get into the splitsies yet. I think that comes later on, but it is so incredibly important. When you look at other brands and how they approach it, it is mind-blowing to see, to exactly the point of Doug, how these teams are sitting separate. At Hasbro, it's the first time that they're actually sitting within the same team specifically. And I think Jen and I bring this special sauce because we really like each other, which makes things a lot easier. But it's incredibly important to have brand always fueling performance, performance always fueling brand. It's interesting to hear how brands will often come to us and say that they're allocating a certain amount of money to performance retail. And I'm like, that's great, but that's not quite how this works. It's a demand-based platform. So you might spend $12 or you might spend $3 million. It's great that you think you're going to spend $300,000. That's not how it works. But we have some amazing results to share with you later on that you can see the power of when the two of these work together. And when working at a portfolio brand such as Hasbro, it's incredibly important for us to really lean in and understand what those priorities are so we can make sure that those top brands or top products are supported in a way that will set them up for success. So even further, just identifying that, you can see here in this funnel, it's how brand media is split up. It's really that generate brand product demand layer. And then you have that mid-funnel tactic. So things like paid social, shoppable TV, creator. And then lastly is, really the performance retail layer, which is all about conversion return on ad spend.
Right, perfect. So last year, Kristina and I took over global media, and when we kind of decided, like, what is the role? How do we want to talk about it internally within the organization? I'm not sure if others face this, but within Hasbro, we have a lot of educating that we need to do. And so we had started with what is the role and everything that Kristina spoke to. And we said, this is a big role. We should really divide it. And that's kind of how we ended up in the path that we are. But one of the most important things was, even though we both manage two very separate teams, we have to think of it holistically, because ultimately consumers don't know which ad that they're seeing. We are Hasbro when we're showing up in front of all of them.
And maybe not even Hasbro, right? People don't even know Hasbro. Right, it's the brand.
Yeah. On there. And so we want to make sure that we're truly moving consumers down the funnel in a way that makes the most sense for what the objective is. And so last year, we lovingly referred to this. It's an extremely media technical term. It is called splitsies.
Yep.
And really, it sounds really funny when you put it that way, but the intent behind it is kind of the science of what we were talking to earlier, in making sure that we're truly mapping back what is the right allocation into our channels to drive the business impact that is needed based on what was briefed into us. Mm-hmm. So we do, at the start of the year, as many companies do, the A&P will get allocated, and we do have a rough gauge of what we have as a general rule of thumb between performance and brand that we will allocate. But then once we actually get into the planning stage, we sit back and say, well, what was the brief for each of our brands? We say we are the inner agency to the company because, as Kristina said, we are the one team that truly sits across. Everybody comes to us, all of our global teams, and they say, hey, I have this brand, I have this product, I have this objective. And so we take a look at, what is that brief? What are they asking us to do? Is it to launch a new brand? Is it that we need to change a brand perception for one of our brands that we're seeing coming back through our brand health trackers? Is it that we need to drive an immediate sale right now? All of that changes our ultimate recommendation and allocation for budget, but also the channels that we're going to choose to plus or minus up in, again, depending on what that is. Next, we look at what's achievable within the channel. We don't need to keep talking about fragmentation. We all know that we have less and less media investment year over year. Our budgets don't go as far anymore as they used to. You cannot just turn this thing and put it on television and reach, I think it was 95%, Mattel was telling us yesterday, of what you used to be able to get within a kid's space. It's just not the same anymore. Kids are on multi-devices. They're multi-stacking on top of being, watching two things at once. And so we truly know that we need to be everywhere. And we also have found we need to be at much higher frequencies than we've ever had to be at before. Right now, we're seeing we need to be at a 10 frequency just to even cut through in a simple message anymore, because consumers are just so bombarded by ads. They don't even realize it. It's kind of like talking to your kids, put your shoes on, put your shoes on. You got to put your shoes on. You got to put your shoes on. And, by that 10th time, you finally cut through and they listen to you. And so we really want to look at what's achievable within the channel. What does that reach look like that we're able to drive from it? And then what does that audience penetration look like, depending on who our target is? And then next, we're going to look down at our retailer platforms. So we want to make sure that what is that natural demand that's already on the platform? Are we capping out on bids? Is there an opportunity to expand our keywords within the retail space to, again, capture more of that existing demand that's already built up on these retailer sites? And if not, do we need to bring in new consumers that we would do so through the brand media? And then that is going to bring us to our ultimate recommendation of where we are going to say, this is what we need in brand and this is what we need in performance and how we're ultimately going to split the budget out.